following a site visit at Borrowstone today. Mr. Masson, could I just get you to just do the housekeeping element just so that we've got a record? Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is a reminder that the meeting will be recorded and will appear on the Council's website soon after. Members of the local review body should leave their cameras on but switch off their microphones until they wish to speak. Officers should switch their microphones and cameras off until the chair brings you into the meeting. All those observing today's proceedings should have their cameras and microphones switched off at all times. You will not be able to ask questions or participate in the proceedings in any way. If members of the local review body or officers wish to speak, please press the raise your hand icon, which is located on the Teams toolbar, but remember to switch it off after the chair brings you in. I've started the recording. I'll now hand back to Councillor Bolton as chair.
Okay, thank you. Could you just do a quick roll call, Mr. Masson, just so that we've got our names on record? Thank you.
Okay, I can confirm that Councillor Bolton will be chairing the meeting today, and we also have Councillors Allen and Councillor Mason in attendance. Okay,
excellent. Okay, as I said earlier, we were out on the site visit to Borrowstone at Borrowstone Road. So if we could now turn to the review in respect to the decision to refuse the application for alterations and extension to the dwelling at Borrowstone Road, AB 158RR. That's planning reference 210930/DPP. We will now hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Ms. Lucy Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reason why the application was refused. I would point out that Ms. Green attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional guidance because she's not been involved in the earlier consideration of the application under review. Ms. Green will not, however, be asked to express any views on the merits of the proposed development, and in effect, her role will be a neutral one involving the provision of factual information only. So if I could just hand over to yourself, Ms. Green.
Thank you, convener. I was just going to start from the beginning of my presentation with the plans again, if that's okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, I'll just share the screen. Can you see that?
Can. Yes.
So this is the request for review against the application refused under the delegated powers for alterations and extensions at Borrowstone Road, sorry. The review was received on time, as I previously indicated. So I'll jump straight into the site description. Just moving on to the location plan. So the application site is a traditional granite house with curtilage mainly to the south and east, to the south of farm buildings and to the east of Borrowstone Bothy, which is just there. We saw that on site. Which has been extended and converted for residential use. Frontage of the building faces south, and other buildings in the grouping include a collection of agricultural buildings of a mix of sizes and materials, mostly modern. The site is accessed from a private track off a minor road which joins the AWPR roundabout on the A944. Just moving through the slides is the aerial shot showing the house there with the pink dot. A view along the access track off the public road. Photographs of the site that we saw this morning. And this is the site plan showing the existing house here and then the extension. So detailed planning permission is sought for the contemporary style single-storey extension to the front and side of the house, and it would wrap around the corner of the building. It's the ground floor plan, so that the extension comes out just to the side of where the existing front door is at the moment, and then wraps around. And that's the first floor plan, so it's single-storey extension, just showing changes to the first floor which don't require planning permission. And these are the elevations. So this is looking from the rear of the house with the garden wall in front of the proposed extension. That's just showing without the garden wall, and a section through the sort of rear existing part of the house. And then this is the side elevation, just sort of close to the trees. And so it would be glazed to the south, which I'll show you in a minute, with horizontal black and vertical timber cladding. And the roof would be a single ply membrane with aluminium parapet, flashing and aluminium clad timber windows. And the other works to the dormers don't require planning permission as they're permitted development. So this is the south elevation, which full height glazing. And then this top portion is vertical timber with horizontal below. And you can just see in the orange dashes there of the roof that sits behind a sort of parapet wall there. In terms of the trees, the survey indicates that 3 of them are suffering from ash dieback. So it indicates that this one in the corner would be removed straight away, and potentially these 2 would require to be removed, but that's for health and safety reasons, not for the development. It's outside the root protection areas of those trees. So moving on to the appointed officers' reasons for refusal, which are in the agenda pack. These make reference to various factors. Firstly, that the proposal would be detrimental to the character and appearance of the traditional farmhouse. Secondly, that this would be therefore detrimental to the character of the Greenbelt and the contribution of the traditional building to that character. And thirdly, that it would therefore conflict with various policies, the Greenbelt policy, policy on design in the adopted local plan, and also the Household and Development Guide. In terms of the applicant's case, this was presented in a lengthy statement with the notice of review, and the central points that are made are that there would be no adverse impact on the Greenbelt, with the existing house being screened by mature trees from public view. The impact on the wider landscape setting of the city and the impact on the boundary of the existing community. That the proposed extension is smaller than the recently constructed extension to the Bothy building to the west. That's the one that we saw on site, and that it's consistent with the established pattern of development. That the extension is subservient to the existing house. It's of high quality design and complies with policy D1 on design, therefore, and also with policy on the Greenbelt. That there'd be no impact on natural heritage, including trees and protected species, particularly bats. That it would be consistent with the council's technical advice note on materials. That it's not possible to extend the house to the north, and the extension to the south would deliver solar gain. That the proposed extension is smaller than the size of extension that could be built under permitted development rights. And it refers to various points within the report of handling which confirm compliance with elements of policies and supplementary guidance. In terms of consultation, there were no comments from the Kings Wells Community Council. There were no representations. In terms of policy, the site's zoned within the Greenbelt, and that policy contains various criteria. There's a general presumption against development, but there's an exception for existing activities in the Greenbelt where those are permitted, but only if various criteria are met. Firstly, that the development is within the residential curtilage? Secondly, is the proposal small scale? Would the intensity of activity be increased, and is the proposed extension ancillary to what exists? And the policy further states that development in the Greenbelt must be of a high quality in terms of siting, scale, design and materials in the context of the Greenbelt setting, and it must comply with other policies, in particular in terms of natural heritage. Policy D1 on design requires development to be of a high standard of design, which demonstrates an understanding of context and links to the 6 qualities which are stated there. Turning to the Householder Development Guide supplementary guidance. It has various general principles, and the key relevant points are compatibility of the architecture of the proposal with the original building, whether the original building is overwhelmed, impact on amenity, and it also states that approvals that predate the guidance are not a precedent. So in terms of material considerations, members should consider whether the proposed works would adversely affect the character and appearance of the building and of the Greenbelt as set out in policy NE2. And secondly, do the proposals accord with the Householder Development Guide? Thirdly, is the design of sufficient quality and is it appropriate in its context? So further considerations, does the proposal comply with the development plan when considered as a whole? And are there other material considerations which weigh for or against the proposal? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Green. Got a bit of feedback there. We obviously had taken the decision that we needed a site visit, which we obviously took place today. So it's an opportunity now for questions. Councillor Allen, have you any questions from Ms. Green?
Yeah, can I ask, and it's okay if you can't answer because you maybe can't. Do you know if the Kingswells Community Council are active and have actually commented on other requests in the area?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know whether they have. I haven't had any recent applications there myself. I haven't heard that they're inactive, but that's... Right.
It's just you said they haven't commented, and I just wondered if they had in the past. That's okay. Yeah. That's all I've got. Thanks, convener.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Mason, have you got any questions?
You're in mute.
Sorry, I get all the technology. No, I've collected all the information I think I need now. Thank you very much.
Okay. I was just having a quick flick to see if I could find if they were active, the Community Council, because certainly my experience, and probably yourself, Councillor Allen, usually if there's a Kingswells application, there is normally a comment from Kingswells.
They're in there, yeah.
Yeah, so like you, I would have expected a comment. So I was just trying to see if they were actually re-established, and I think they are, but I wouldn't like to say for definite. Okay, I don't have any questions because obviously we did have a look when we were on site, some of the points that I wanted clarified, which I got at the time. Obviously we've heard from the officer in attendance today describe the policies that are related to this application. So if we now feel we've got sufficient information and we're happy to make a decision, Councillor Allen, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, sure. I'm quite happy and thank Tom for the visit suggestion. It certainly cleared up things for me. When looking at the little islet, or whatever you might call that collection of properties that were there, I don't particularly think that this extension will stick out, as you say, like a sore thumb. I think it will fit in quite well with what is already there. So, I mean, I would be content to let it go ahead.
Okay, Councillor Masson.
Yes, Farina, I'm of the same opinion. I mean, if it was an isolated farmhouse by itself, with no surrounding buildings and other properties, I would have a different view. But it's in the context of the existing properties, which are relatively new, not particularly traditional in content, in design, and certainly not traditional in use, because they more look like commuter houses. They don't look like farm buildings or farm cottages or anything like that. So I think it would be the only, the only slight reservation I have, but I'm sort of balancing it towards thinking it's okay, is the dominance from on one corner looking at the building. It will be all extension and no building, if that makes sense. But on balance, I mean, I think it will actually enhance the building rather than deteriorate the area. So and it is protected by trees. I think I like some condition that the if it's possible the tree barrier will be maintained in some form, because rather than let it, because it is quite a nice view, and it's part of the deal, if you like, is to sacrifice some of the view for the benefit of the countryside, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Allen. Thank you, Councillor Mason. Obviously, looking at the policies, NE2, which is the Greenbelt policy, I don't have a problem that this, in general terms, complies. We've got to look at it in terms of its impact on the Greenbelt. And I don't think it'll have a negative impact. I think, both yourself, Councillor Allen, and Councillor Mason touched on it. This is a house that's going to be part of a small almost development, which is of varying styles. And actually, the other consideration we have to talk about is obviously the D1, which is the quality placemaking by design. Now, again, you could argue that actually the extension to the house is very much like a farm building. So, in some ways it actually blends in quite nicely. So you might not actually know if it's an extension to a house or if it's actually a separate sort of farm building. So, I was actually quite comfortable with that. And it is a single story, and they've made it quite interesting. It's not just plain square, it's got angles on it. It's got, a nice finish. And if you look at the house next door, it's very modern onto a farm type building. And I don't think it has a detrimental impact to the green belts or to the little grouping of housing. So like yourselves, I'm quite comfortable. It's within the existing curtilage, it's small scale, it doesn't increase any activity in the green belt, and in my view actually is high quality, and I don't think it particularly dominates the house. And I think the screening that currently exists, now we've heard that a few of the trees need to go in terms of ash dieback, which I'm sure that the residents themselves will want a level of screening to maintain their privacy away from the other houses. And I'm sure that we could, ask that they look at the landscaping. I would maybe ask Ms. Green to give us some advice on what wording, because again, what we don't want them is to feel hemmed in behind a row of trees either. Because part of the thing is about the solar gain. So we will have to be respectful about, making sure people do have the opportunity to have a bit of sunlight into their home. So Ms. Green, could you maybe advise us, given that we seem to be unanimous in overturning the officer's recommendation and approving it, in terms of being able to apply any sensible and reasonable conditions in relation to maybe maintaining some sort of level of landscaping, what might be appropriate or not appropriate?
I mean, I would suggest that a condition required just submission of a plan showing some tree planting, so that the applicant can decide what they would like to see there, and then we can require that would be planted. Okay, that's fine. And with that in mind, members, are you content with that condition?
Yeah, yes, happy with that.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll just
they could maybe just replace the ones that they have to take out, the sick trees, as you say.
yeah, the dieback trees.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, I mean,
if they get replaced with decent, new, healthy, that would flourish,
yeah,
that would certainly add to the covering.
And it was quite a windy day today. I don't know if it's normally windy up at the top of the hill, but certainly.
Sure is.
I think they should change it to Windy Ridge.
Yeah.
But no, so, you know, the decision of the local review body has to overturn the decision of the appointed officer with the condition as suggested by putting in a landscape scheme. And I think, Mr. Masson, do you need anything further from us?
No, that's fine. You've just said what I was going to say, so thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you all for your attendance today, and appreciate you coming out on the site visit. I think it was definitely worthwhile and gave us perspective on the application. Okay, thanks folks, and
Okay.
catch you all
Thank you.
soon.
Thanks to the
Thank you,
chair.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.